بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد. So alhamdulillah, we've been given another opportunity to read from this work of Sayyidi Muhyiddin Abd al-Qadir al-Jilani rahimahullah wa radiyallahu anhu, الكتاب المسمى الفتح الرباني والفيض الرحماني. So the sublime revelation of Sayyidi Abd al-Qadir al-Jilani, the renewer and mujaddid, or one of them at least, of the 6th century of Hijrah. So we have arrived at the 16th discourse, and this discourse has a few themes within it. One of them is the relationship, which we'll be reading first, the first excerpt, of the believer with the Quran and with the Sunnah. What are some of the tarbiyah aspects that one should benefit from by reading the Quran and being acquainted and familiar with the Sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ, and also talking about how to make what's called ta'mir in this life, in this dunya, لأجل الآخرة, for the sake of the akhirah. So the Shaykh, he begins in the first line. He says, قال الحسن البصري رحمه الله تعالى أهين الدنيا فإنها والله لا تطيب إلا بعد إهانتها. Hasan al-Basri said, treat this world with contempt, for by Allah it acquires a pleasant odor only after it has been treated with contempt. And I think what he means by that, Allahu A'lam, is that the believer should not let the delights and the pleasures of the dunya enter one's heart to the degree that it then becomes the focus of their life, the focus of their aspiration, the focus of everything that they do in life. Rather, this idea of ihana means put it in its proper place. So contempt kind of is an illustrative shade of the meaning of ihana, but it can also mean put it in its proper place, lower it, right? Because dunya min ad-dunu, dunya means the lowest form of existence. So ahinu dunya fa innaha wallahi la tutibu illa ba'da ihanatiha. So it will not acquire a pleasant odor or have a pleasant fragrance until after you have made this ihana of the dunya. You put it in your proper place. And then what should be in its proper place as well? Al-akhirah, al-ukhra, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So at the top should be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then the akhirah also has its proper place, but it is higher than the dunya, but lower than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he says, Ya ghulam, al-amalu bil-Qur'an يوقفك على منزله والعمل بالسنة يوقفك على الرسول نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يبرح بقلبه وهمته من حول قلوب القوم هو المطيب والمبخر لها المصفي لأسرارهم والمزين لها هو المستفتح باب القرب لها هو الماشطة هو السفير بين القلوب والأسرار وبين ربها عز وجل كلما تقدمت إليه خطوة ازداد فرحا من رزق هذا الحال كان حقا عليه أن يشكر وتزداد طوعيته أما الفرح بغير هذا فهوس الجاهل يفرح في الدنيا العالم يختم فيها الجاهل يناظر القدر وينازعه والعالم يوافقه ويرضى. Putting the Quran into practice will make you familiar with the one who sent it down, and practicing the Sunnah will make you familiar with the messenger, our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. He is always around the hearts of the Lord's people, Ahlullah, with his heart and his spiritual aspiration. It is he who makes their hearts fragrant with perfume and incense, who purifies and beautifies their innermost meanings. It is he who opens up for them the door of nearness to the Lord. He is the maidservant who prepares their attire, al-Mashita. He is the ambassador, the Safir between their hearts and inner beings and their Lord. whenever you take a step closer to him, his happiness increases. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So when we look at our approach to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the door to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is only one, and that is our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if it was not for our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we would not know Allah, we would not know the Quran, we would not know the Sunnah, we would not know ourselves. And Anas ibn Malik, radiallahu anhu, after they had finished burying the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the day that he passed, or a few days later actually, he said, we did not finish burying the Prophet ﷺ and wipe the dirt off our hands, except that we no longer knew ourselves. And in a riwayah, another narration, we no longer knew our hearts. So it is the Prophet ﷺ who is still amongst us. وَعَلَمُوا أَنَّ فِيكُمْ رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. Know that the Prophet ﷺ is still amongst you. And the way that we recite the Quran, the meanings we derive out of the Quran, because the Sunnah is it's an explication, it's a sharh. So the ulama Imam al-Shafi'i used to say, I believe, that the Sunnah explains the Quran, and the amal of the mashayikh and the ulama, the works of the ulama and the scholars, that explains the Sunnah. So it's all deen at the end of the day. So the fallacious argument, why don't you follow the Quran and Sunnah? Why are you reading al-Qadir, al-Jilani? And why are you reading Ibn Ata'illah al-Sakandari? And why are you reading Imam al-Ghazali? And why are you reading Shafi'i wa Malik? Isn't the Quran and Sunnah enough? Is a fallacious argument, a fallacious question to begin with, because this is the Quran and Sunnah. What do you think we're doing? We are reading about the Quran and Sunnah. We're reading about people who put the Quran and Sunnah into practice. And they are our wasila, right? They're a way for us to know the Quran and Sunnah, and most significantly for us to know the Prophet ﷺ. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Alaykum bi sunnati wa sunnat al-khulafa al-mahdiyyin min ba'di." You follow the Sunnah, my Sunnah, and the Sunnah of my rightful khulafa, my rightful stewards and heirs after me. And that's not just the four khulafa of Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman and Ali, but anyone who is an heir of this knowledge, an heir of the Prophet ﷺ. So they also say that Ahlul Quran, Ahlullahi wa khassatu, wa Ahlul Hadith, Ahlu Rasulillahi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That the people of Quran who spend their time in the Quran and really give it a significant amount of attention and time in their life, they are the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because this is our Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is kalam Allah, this is the word of God. This is how He communicates with us. And in it there is tibyan li kulli shay, as the Quran says about itself. And in it there is a tibyan, there's a clear explanation for everything. And so people who still looking for the master equation that's going to give us what the world is really about and what it means, or the theory of everything and that sort of thinking, we have it already in the Quran. The Quran, ma farratna fil kitabi min shay. We were not negligent or remiss in anything in the kitab. So everything that is contained in the Quran, in this kitab, has a direction for us. It points us in the right direction. It's a book that is matlu, right? We recite it, we tilawa, yani, we read it, we contemplate its meanings. Tadabbur al-ma'ani is one of the rights of the Quran upon us. Zarruq says in his book An-Nasiha al-Kafiyah that Nasiha al-Kitab includes tilawa, is to ponder it, is to recite its verses as an ibadah, as an act of worship, and it remains an act of worship and a spiritual benefit, whether you understand the meanings or you don't understand the meanings. Obviously, understanding the meanings is much better, but even if you don't, there is still a benefit in it. There's still a spiritual benefit in it. It's kalamullah. So just like you take certain physical medicine, or even if you hear certain tunes and rhythms, it creates a mood and makes you feel better. But what about kalamullah? What about the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Can we imagine if we really took that into our consideration and made a a concerted effort to make this book a big part of our lives. And in order for it to be a big part of our lives, it should be a daily part of our lives. I mean, really, we should strive to have a wird of Quran, a daily one, in whatever capacity you're able to do. If you can do one page, that's great. You can do half a page, good. A few verses, that's okay. If you can do one juz, excellent. Half a juz, good. But the idea is consistency. The idea is to to develop a relationship with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Natadaras al-Quran. Because this is what we're doing here. We're actually natadaras al-Quran. We are studying together the meanings of the Quran, albeit in a version that comes from one of the great inheritors of the Quran and great inheritors of the Prophet ﷺ. But basically, we are still studying the meanings of the Quran. And the same is true for the Sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ. And there are certain kind of entry points into understanding and having a connection with our Prophet ﷺ. So amongst those entry points is studying the seerah and studying the shama'il. So the seerah is obviously the biography of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and the shama'il is a genre of hadith that are descriptions of our Prophet ﷺ, both physical, outward, what they call al-khalq, and both description of his inward characteristics, or al-khuluq. So all of that also, those two things are pathways or gates towards our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Reading hadith in general, reading what he said, also is a pathway to our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But probably, or I would say, in our opinion, not probably, but most certainly, the surest and most ascertained way by which to have a path to the Prophet ﷺ is having a relationship with his heirs, having a relationship with the true ulama, as Shaykh Abd al-Jilani mentions here, al-ulama al-amilun, right? The ones who know and the ones who do by their knowledge, the ones who know the sunnah and the seerah of our Prophet ﷺ, and then they're a walking shama'il, right? They're a walking version of our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. They embody the prophetic traits of our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. And for many, many people, the shama'il actually really become alive, and many people, their relationship with the Prophet ﷺ comes alive when they come into contact with or have a basic relationship, or even just see them once, one of the heirs of our Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to facilitate that for us and to give it to us consistently, so that we may too have a share of this irth, that we may be given a share of this inheritance of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Shaykh then goes on to talk a little bit about our relationship with the dunya and how to build something, right? And it's interesting. He says, المؤمن له نية صالحة في جميع تصاريفه لا يعمل في الدنيا للدنيا يبني في الدنيا للآخرة يعمر المساجد والقناطر والمدارس والربط ويهذب طرق المسلمين وإن بنى غير هذا في الأعيال والأرامل والفقراء وما لا بد منه يفعل ذلك حتى يبنى له في الآخرة بدله لا يبني لطبعه وهواه ونفسه إذا صح ابن آدم كان من الحق عز وجل في جميع أحواله يصير فقده بالله ووجوده بالله يلتحق قلبه بالنبيين والمرسلين يقبل ما جاءوا به قولا وعملا وإيمانا وإيقانا لا جرم يلتحق بهم دنيا وآخرة. So this page 108, if you're following the third paragraph, the believer has a correct intention in all his undertakings. He does not work in this world for this world's sake. He builds in this world for the sake of the hereafter. He constructs mosques, masajid, bridges, schools, and guest houses, and mends the roads of the Muslims. If he builds anything else, it is for the benefit of those who cannot look after themselves, for widows and the poor and to meet essential needs. He does so that its equivalent will be built for him in the hereafter. He does not build to satisfy his natural impulse or his taba', his desires, his hawa, and his lower self or his nafs. When a human being is truly fit, he is with the Lord of Truth, Azza wa Jal, in all his circumstances. He comes to be such that his absence is because of Allah, and his presence is because of Allah. His heart is linked to the prophets and Nabiyyin and the messengers and Mursalun. He accepts what they have brought by word and deed with faith and conviction. He is surely linked with them in this world and the hereafter. So this is a common question that many people have, because we hear, especially in books like this, about dhamm dunya. Dhamm dunya means the condemnation of dunya, and how it's very dangerous and one should stay away from it and should take it out of his heart and so forth. Even to stay away from it. But what if you have dunya? What if you do have wealth? What if you do have means? So the idea then is not necessarily to give all your means away. The Quran says, وَاتَّخِذُوا بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ سَبِيلًا لَا تَبْسُطُهَا كُلَّ الْبَسْطِ. Don't give it all away and don't constrict all of it. But take something in between. وَاتَّخِذُوا بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ وَاتَّخِذْ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ سَبِيلًا. Take away a moderate way, a medium way between those two extremes. And so if you have dunya, if you have means, then make the way that you deal with it your tasarif, as he says here. الْمُؤْمِنُ لَهُ نِيَّةٌ صَالِحٌ فِي جَمِيعِ تَصَارِيفِهِ. So in all of his or her matters, all of his or her affairs, have a good intention, have a good niyyah. Don't go into it with your taba', right? With your your just inclination, right? That could be based upon hawa, that can be based upon caprice, that can be based upon just a desire for fame or a desire to be noticed. Don't make those the motivators, the reasons why you're doing something. Make the reason why you're doing something a good intention for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he even mentions build schools, build bridges, build hospitals, build whatever, build orphanages, take care of people who are in need. These all require resources. These all require a considerable amount of resources and funds to do. And there has to be people of the ummah who take that upon themselves. And so that's an important thing. So if one has wealth or has accumulated some of it, and that's your intention in doing so, that you want to do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then that's a good intention. They also said, Imam al-Sha'rani, I was reading the other day, he said, from a spiritual perspective, don't look at yourself as the sovereign or the owner, the malik of whatever wealth that you have. If you see yourself as merely a wasi, the wasi means the one who is the administrator over it, right? Man alladhi wasa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who is the one who gave you that administrative capacity? Who is the one who has assigned you that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the true mu'ti, right, the true giver, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam even mentioned this in hadith narrated in Bukhari, Ana al-Qasim wallahu al-mu'ti. I am the distributor, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala huwa al-mu'ti. He is the one who gives. So the one who truly gives is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if he's given you, then he's given you not so that you can indulge yourself, but rather he wants to see his work done, but by your hand. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you the opportunity to spread the good and enjoying the common good, and to take care of the needy and to take care of those who are in need by your hand. And that's what you should be happy with. Ibn Ata al-Sakandari, one of the hikam, he says, لا تفرحك طاع إنها برزت منك ولكن افرح بطاع إنها برزت من الله إليك أو كما قال. Don't be happy because you think you did the act of disobedience, right? قل بفضل الله ورحمته فبذلك فليفرحوا وهو خير مما يجمعون. Say, by the bounty and the virtue of Allah and His mercy, I find farah, I rejoice, not because of what I accumulate. So see yourself as a distributor, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you the opportunity to be that, much in the same way that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What did the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam distribute? Everything. Obviously wealth too, but knowledge, nubuwwah, the meanings of nubuwwah, the meanings of prophethood and prophecy. He was the emissary from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the people. And you too can have that role. So don't see yourself as the sovereign, as the owner, so that your heart does not become attached to it, but see it as a custodian of it. You know, you've been given this responsibility. And that means that if people come to you in need, whatever need, if they need your time, if they need something of your wealth, if they need something of your attention, if they need something of your concern, do not grow agitated from that. Don't become agitated. Don't become annoyed and say, why are these people coming to me? Why think they'll go ask this person or ask this person why they was coming to me? It's a blessing and it's actually an honor that they're coming to you. Right? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to see good in one of his servants, then he sends his other servants to him or to her. So if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts you in the maqam, puts you in the station that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to be the extender and the distributor of good, then this is a blessing and this is an honor, and you should say alhamdulillah. And the way to show gratitude for that particular blessing is to fulfill that honor. And so as people come to you, then help them, take care of them. Anas ibn Malik said the Prophet ﷺ, he would almost never say no. And if a sa'il came, if someone came, then either he would give them what they were looking for, أو يصرفه بلطف. He would give them what they were looking for, or even if he wasn't able to accommodate them at that particular time, he would still give them a kind and a gentle word and deal with them kindly and without being aggressive and without malice and so forth. وَأَمَّا السَّائِلَ فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. Right? As for the one who asked, the one who is asking for something, فَلَا تَنْهَرْ. Right? Do not revile them. So, our ethos is very different. We don't see people being in the particular position that they're in as something of their own doing. This is circumstances that have been put upon them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I believe that in our particular situation now with this pandemic, all those people on the front lines, the doctors, the nurses, the first responders, the police, the National Guard, even the politicians who are overseeing this, and people in health administration and all that sort of thing, I think this is a maqam for them, and they may get something out of this. Allah has put them in this position, literally to save humanity, or at least to ameliorate the difficult situation that all of humanity finds itself in now. That's a great honor. That's a great maqam, and so we should be praying for those people, and we should be praying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps them safe and keeps their families protected, and raise them in ranks and in degrees and so forth. And everyone eventually will find a point in their life, or more than once, where they will feel like they're in that position, will come to them. And so some days you might be on the receiving end, and some days you might be on the giving end. But the important thing is to have the proper etiquette and adab with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the next section, which comes right after it, he says, let me actually address the points before that. إذا صح ابن آدم كان مع الحق عز وجل في جميع أحواله. So if the human being is, we see this sort of ta'bir with the Shaykh a lot, صح أو صحيح, is spiritually fit, is in the place they're supposed to be. كان مع الله في جميع أحواله. Then they are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all of their circumstances and situations. يصير فقده بالله ووجوده بالله. So in your absence and in your presence, whether you're absent from a particular situation or circumstance, or whether you're present in it, then let it be by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this also is connected, if you recall, when Shaykh, he talked about, before we do something, there are certain gates it must pass through. So we talked about the gate of the Quran and the gate of the Sunnah, right? Is it shara, is it halal, is it right, is it haram, is it mandub, is it wajib, obligatory, has to pass through that gate. And the gate of the qalb, right? The gate of the heart, which is, you know, uh, that which is good and which is true. يطمئن إليه القلب. That which is right in and of itself, the heart will be inclined to it. وما غير ذلك يحق في القلب. And that which is not inclined and you feel like it's wrong, استفتي قلبك وإن أفتوك المفتون, then you know something's wrong with it. So it passes through that gate. And then the last one that he mentioned, if you recall, is to have witnessing of فعل الله فيك, is to have witnessing of the act of God passing through you. So this is a little more difficult to witness than seeing the act of God in everybody else. So it's easier to kind of say, like, okay, I can see that's Allah. I know that person did that, but clearly I can see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one who is behind that. So I can see فعل الله في فلان وفلان وفلان and so forth. But then to see it within oneself is more difficult, right? Because you have a big obstacle inside, namely your nafs, your ego, your appetite, and it wants to be the one that is doing everything and the owner of everything, and so that's kind of getting in the way. But it's actually no different من حيث الحقيقة, right? From the reality, the true inner reality of things, you are no different than anyone else. So if فعل الله, if the act of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is يسري في جميع الناس, it's going through them, and they are the ones being kind of يحركون, right? They're the ones who are being moved to do things, then that's also true for you. But then the question becomes, how does one witness that within themselves? So he kind of, I think, touches upon that here. يصير فقده بالله ووجوده بالله, right? Your faqd, your absence, is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and your presence with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not by your own volition, right? You're not witnessing yourself in yourself, but you're witnessing the divine as it executes within you. And that is maqam al-mushahada. That is the idea of mushahada. If you reach that, then يلتحق قلبه بالنبيين والمرسلين, right? Then your heart becomes connected with the nabiyyin, with the prophets and messengers, because that's where there are too, right? They're on a much higher level, but that's the basic premise. يقبل ما جاءوا به قولا وعملا وإيمانا وإيقانا. Then you accept everything that they came with in terms of deeds, in terms of what they said. إيمانا وإيقانا, by way of iman and by way of certainty that's backed up by mushahada, by witnessing of this. لا جرم يلتحق بهم دنيا وآخرة. Then there is a certainty, لا جرم, that's what that means, لابد, that you will be connected with them both in the dunya and in the akhirah. So he says he is surely linked with them in this world and in the hereafter. ثم يقول الذاكر لله عز وجل أبدا حي ينتقل من حياة إلى حياة فلا موت له سوى لحظة. إذا تمكن الذكر في القلب دام ذكر العبد لله عز وجل وإن لم يذكره بلسانه. كلما دام العبد في ذكر الله عز وجل دامت موافقته له ورضاه بأفعاله. إن لم توافق الحق عز وجل في مجيء الصيف وإلا أكذبنا الصيف. وإن لم نوافقه في مجيء الشتاء وإلا أبردنا الشتاء. الموافقة فيهما تزيل أذيتهما وشدة فعلهما. وهكذا الموافقة في البلايا والآفات تزيل الكرب والضيق والحرج والضجر والانزعاج وقت نزولها. ما أعجب أمور القوم، ما أحسن أموالهم. كل ما يأتيهم من الحق عز وجل عندهم طيب قد سقاهم بنج معرفته ونومهم في حجر لطفه وآنسهم بأنسه. فلا جرم يطيب لهم المقام معه والغيبة عن كل شيء سواه. لا يزالون موتى بين يديه وقد ملكتهم الهيبة. فإذا شاء أنشرهم وأقامهم وأحياهم وشبههم. هم بين يديه كأصحاب الكهف في كهفهم الذين قال في حقهم ونقلبهم ذات اليمين وذات الشمال. He who remembers Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always alive. He passes from life to life, experiencing death for an instant only, right? Because death is actually it's a passageway, it's a gateway. So you're passing from one life to a different type of another life. So you pass from the life of dunya, this life, and then you enter into the life of al-barzakh, right? The barzakh is the in-between life between this life and al-akhirah al-abadiyah, right? And the akhirah, that is for forever. But in barzakh, which is the life of the grave, it is part of akhirah, but it's not al-akhirah al-abadiyah. It's not the one that's forever. It's temporary, ila yawm as-sa'a, ila yawm al-ba'th, until the resurrection, until the day of judgment, and then we'll all be resurrected. But as you pass through, these are gateways, so you only really taste death. كل نفس ذائقة الموت, as the Quran says. ذائقة, يعني will taste it or is tasting it. And it's interesting here, even in the Arabic, ذائقة الموت, which is اسم فاعل, which means that is your state right now, not that you will do that in the future. So you are tasting death in a sense as you are now. This could mean موت النفس قبل أن تموت, حاسبوا أنفسكم قبل أن تحاسبوا. Right, take yourself into account before you're taken into account. Die before you die. So ذائقة الموت means you are tasting of it. And in fact, sleep is considered to be the lesser death, right? Because you're in a state where you're in a different type of life. You can be going to all these different places and you wake up, and then that just felt like you were somewhere completely different. That's what this life will feel like when you die. So when where people are asleep in this life, and when they die, they wake up, right? بصرك اليوم إيش حديد. Then your basar, how you see, will be hadid, will be steely in terms of its penetration. It will not make a mistake. So things that were ma'ani, things that were merely meaning in this life, will be mutajassid in the next life. They will take on real, what will appear to us, and they are real, physical forms, but a physicality of the akhirah, not the physicality of the dunya. So we only experience death for that instant, and in terms of passing from one to the next. So when remembrance, dhikr, has come to be established in the heart, the servant's remembrance of Allah is constant, even if he does not remember Him with his tongue. And we've talked about this, dhikr al-qalb, dun al-lisan. So the real dhikr is the dhikr of the heart. And then the lisan taba'. And then the tongue follows based upon the dhikr of the heart, because the dhikr of the heart is constant. As long as the servant is constant in his remembrance of Allah, he is also constant in his compliance with His wishes and his ready acceptance of His workings. If we do not conform to the will of the Lord of Truth, Azza wa Jal, when summer comes around, the heat of the summer will leave us exhausted. And unless we conform to His will when winter comes, the cold of winter will leave us chilled. And we talked about this the last session. The seasons, the circumstances that come to us. Right? Summer comes and we're very happy and it's great. And then winter comes and we're constricted. But the idea is to have the proper adab in each of them, so that when summer comes, you don't feel like you're too hot. You don't feel munza'ij. You don't feel irritated and agitated with the circumstance of summer. And then when winter comes, you also have the adab and etiquette. So maybe this needs forbearance, maybe this needs patience. So then you have the etiquette, the proper etiquette and adab in the winter, so you don't become chilled or too cold. By adjusting to them both, we avoid the discomforts caused by their extreme conditions. In similar fashion, by adjusting to trials and tribulations, we dispel the anxiety, distress, anguish, worry, and disturbance that comes with them. How marvelous are the affairs of the people of the Lord, al-qawm. And you'll find this word a lot, ahwal al-qawm, the people al-qawm. It means people of the path, or people of taking tazkiyah, or the path of muqarrabin, the path of those who are closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How excellent are their states, their ahwal. Everything they receive from the Lord of Truth is a delight to them. He has let them drink the sulfuric drug, al-banj, of His intimate knowledge, ma'rifah, and their sleep is in the lap of His tender care. He has entertained them with His friendship, so of course it's delightful for them to stay with Him and away from everything apart from Him. They remain lifeless in His presence, for awe has possessed them. Then He so wishes, He resuscitates them, resurrects them, revives them, and wakes them up. This can refer to both the between dunya and akhirah, so the actual death and then the resurrection, or it can mean the death of life, which is death of the nafs, or the overcoming of the murid or the disciple over their nafs, over their ego, over their appetite, into a more focused an intimate relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so at that point, there's a bit of lifelessness of the nafs, and then it's resuscitated or revived in terms of the ruh and the sir. Then when he so wishes, he resuscitates them, resurrects them, revives them, and wakes them up. In his presence, they are like the companions of the cave, Ashab al-Kahf, in their cave, concerning whom he said, and we turn them over to the night, then over to the left. Right? And it said, one of the tafsir of this verse is that the cave was open, and sunlight would come in, and so forth. And also, imagine sleeping 309 years on only one side of your body. What type of bed sores are you going to have after that? People get bed sores if they stay 9-10 days in a hospital bed. So here, this is referring to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, يُقَدِّبُهُمْ ذَاتِ الْيَمِينِ وَذَاتِ الشِّمَالِ. So their bodies were being turned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect them from, having, atrophy or a bed sore, from one side of the body versus the other, and another tafsir, I believe, also for the sun coming in and out, also not to be harmed by the sun on one side and not on the other. So more of an even, restful sleep that they were there for the 300 years or so. And so the metaphor here is we too have witnessing mushahada of qadr Allah yasri fik. Have a mushahada that the qadr, the divine decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is running through you. So let Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be the one holding the steering wheel, not you. And that doesn't mean that we're fatalistic, but it means that we realize the haqiqah, that it's truly Allah driving, but at the same time, He's given us some aspect of ikhtiyar, He's given some aspect of choice, and in that aspect of choice, we choose to choose Him. So let's choose to choose Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and not choose something else. Then our deeds and our acts and our aqwal and everything about us, our ahwal, our states, will be commensurate with the divine decree that seeks inayah for us, that seeks special attention and gives us divine gifts. Wallahu ta'ala a'la wa a'lam.